You ready? It's not very, it's sort of derogatory, but it's my thoughts. You know, every time you're in the service and they move you from one place to the other, they check you, they give you all that other stuff, and they drill on your teeth like they got guys that need to learn. And they're in southern England in a hospital. I was in the dentist chair. And the guy pushed so hard. I mean, the drill quit running. Can you imagine? The drill stopped. It's like getting it caught in something. That didn't feel good. So when I was out married, my teeth started decaying a little. They had a veterans hospital set up over on Papago, called Papago Barracks. And I thought, well, and I put it off. I hated to go to the dentist, but if I was going to go, at least if they'd do it, I wouldn't have to pay for it. I went over there and they looked and said, no, we'll pull all of them, but won't work on any of them. They'll pull all of them, but they won't work on any. One billet going by you is worth more again. So I went a few more weeks or a month till I thought, I've got to go to the dentist. The old Dr. Purnell that was here in Chandler, I'd gone to once or twice as a kid. I went in there ready to sit there and let him do the drill the same way, but he put shots in there to deaden it. Man, I thought that felt so good. I wanted to go back. No, I didn't really, but now the dentist isn't all that bad, you know, but when they do it without any deadening and hitting a nerve. Now my son, he can tell you, when he was in school, I'd go by and pick him up, take him to Dr. Purnell. He'd tell him, you better not hurt me, my dad's sitting out there. And one time I took him when he was real small. He'd come by, I could leave the post office anytime because I gave him 10, 11 hours a day for 8 and gave him back a year and a half sick leave. Well, so much for that. Anyway, he was in there and I was getting past. I should be back at the office. Finally, the dentist, Dr. Purnell, come out and said, John, says, Jimmy will be out pretty soon. I had to pull 2 teeth. He's being able to pick out 2 toys and he can't make up his mind. He was taking all that time picking out his toys that he's getting for pulling a tooth. Is that true or not?
Yes, it is.
See, that's him.
There you go. Do you remember where you were on VE Day?
What day was that?
That was in May.
May.
45.
I had to been working at the post office. I usually don't take my vacation until July. I would have been working at the post office.
Yeah. What was the date when you actually returned back to Chandler?
From the service, that would have been, I think, on about July, or was it, July the 11th.
July 11th.
That, then by the 1st of August, I think I was already back working at the post office.
Okay. So on VJ Day that's when they signed.
I remember the bomb going off, but I don't remember where I wasn't into it. I appreciated the guys, and I don't fault them for dropping it. That had to get their attention. Somebody that would bomb you without you knowing it, that the proper thing was to declare war and then do it. I know, but if they had won, it wouldn't have made any difference. But I don't know whether it's Roosevelt or someone else said about they just didn't realize they'd woken a sleeping giant. And that's what we were. And they had to come back, and they did it, and we did it, and they got it down to us young guys. But it was for the old guys that had the mind and the brains to keep it going too. and the cadre. Oh, I'd wake up on Saturday mornings, or was it Sundays? Saturdays. I'd think, oh man, I hope it's still an hour before we have to get up. No, it would be Friday or Saturday morning, because we'd still be doing military stuff except Sunday, unless you're on pass. But waking up on one of the other days, I'd wake up and I think, man, I hope it's still because they'd hit the steps and the top and blow the whistle and start yelling, come out of there. That's at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was hoping it was only 4. And that was over and over and over and over. Mm-hmm. And on Sundays when I'd want to get up, hitchhike in to go to church, I'd oversleep. Mm-hmm. I'd hitchhike in. Well, I went to church once in Paris because I knew the preacher. But in California, I never did because it was too late. Because I needed to sleep. Unless someone woke me up, that was it.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember when the war in Europe ended? Not the date, but do you remember at that time what you were doing?
I remember seeing them sitting around and signing and talking about who gets this part of, and the part of, it's too bad they couldn't have done Berlin different, but that's sad. Here we were fighting with, not necessarily against, and we couldn't decide how to keep Berlin open or rightful pass.
Okay. What medals or citations did you receive?
They were, you see them? Oh, yeah. I got the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. I was entitled to the Purple Heart. And the Combat Infantryman's Badge and the Peace Medal. 2 battle stars on my European operation. And the Good Conduct Medal, which when my son was playing war, lost it out here among the stuff. Anyway, I didn't know about that for months, and that was all right with me. I'm really easy to get along with. I think almost all the people that had me for supervisor, and my brother, will say I was fair and even human. Mm-hmm. My brother got the hardest end of it because he had to supervise the carriers. And they were not there's anything against them, but they worked harder pedaling a bike or walking, doing this or that. Now, the inspector told me one time a clerk at the post office did a lot more jobs than a carrier. A carrier does one job. He does it every day. Sorts his mail in the case, pulls it out, puts it in the bike, and goes and puts it in the house. But you've got to know rules and regulations. Deal with people. They deal with people. But I'm just saying that because he said it. And that's true. The carrier, he just, like Lefty would probably tell you, he was always a carrier. Mm-hmm. And then we had the rural routes. Everybody wanted the rural route.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about that. When you came back from the war, you said pretty soon after that you started working at the post office, right? Mm-hmm. Did you get married? When did you get married?
Well, I got married on October the 18th, 1946. So I was still a clerk. Mm-hmm. She worked in a PX or warehouse in the base. And she rented a room for my aunt and uncle.
What was her name?
Her name was Violet Jones. And
how did you meet Violet?
She bought a room from my aunt and uncle that didn't live too far from us. And she saw my picture on dresser. She says, "Who's that?" No, she didn't say, "Who's that?" No. She said, "Who's that?" And I said, "That's my nephew, John." "Oh, I want to meet him." Bingo. She went to church at times. I'd see her at church. And when I heard she wanted to meet me, I didn't hesitate. I went down, introduced myself. We went out to eat. We did a lot of going to the old Chandler pool, then go from there over to Snack Shack, it was called, a drive-in, hamburgers and stuff. And then she went to work early, I went to work early. So we usually went to bed early. So it was, I met her in I don't know her about 4 or 5 months. And got to know her real quick. And I got the rings. Of course, I'd known my present wife for years. No, she said, and they said it in a joshing manner too, she's going to be buried between her 2 husbands. We have plots over there. There's my dad, my mother, my brother. Then it'll be her, then it'll be me, and then my wife. That's humor, but we can handle it. And she knows, you know, my brother and I worked together for 30 some odd years. I had 38 years in the post office, retired with credit for 39 and a half, because I gave him back a 1.5 years sick leave. And which, if you got 41 years, then you get maximum. You just will not work at all. And that's why I work. We already had a little three-bedroom Melody home in Payson and Payson North. Later bought a house. We had the best of 2 worlds for about 6 or 8 months till I can't go up in the elevation. But there are a lot of good people up there. And I miss out on.
Okay. So, so you married your wife, and then you had how many children?
4.
4 children. Can you name your kids?
Yeah. There's Elizabeth May. Elizabeth after my mother, and May after her mother. And Patricia Ann. We liked Patricia Ann. And Elizabeth, Johnny Louise. Johnny, we thought we weren't going to have him. So I gave her my name with the Johnny is spelled Johnnye, Louise. Mine's John. Johnny Louise. And I made a pact with my brother. The first boy would get his first name and my middle name. His first boy would get his first name and whatever it was. Anyway, his name is James Lewis. My brother's first name and my middle name. His boy is John Edgar. John, my first name, Edgar, my brother's middle name. Mm-hmm. That worked out. But it seemed like a hopeless thing, you know. No.
Did you just stay in Chandler then? You stayed in Chandler, right?
Yeah, I had opportunities to go other places in the post office. I probably made $400 or $500 more, but who wants $400 or $500? I liked where I was.
Mm-hmm. Where did you guys live at?
Well, there wasn't that many places, and you know, the beauty thing about people now, they have the VA, or the Bill of Rights, or what call it?
The GI Bill?
GI Bill. They got all kinds of people to help you get a house. I went through a deal getting plans, went to the bank a dozen times, they was going to finance it. I had money, I had a secure job. Then I went to the bank again, and they changed the price. Well, no, first I went to the builder where I got a price and went to the bank. he wouldn't do it for that. He had already increased it. So I went to the bank, and they might would have went for that, but they was asking what collateral I had. I didn't have a house. I had a savings. I had a good job, and I had a military record. But so this person had this house almost completed. It was a nice house, 30 cement block on South California Street. It wasn't the best in the area, but it was a house. It wasn't quite finished. It cost $6,000. I paid my $2,000 I had stuck away on it. That left $4,000. A lady taking care of an old man bought the note from the guy. I paid him, I think it was $60 a month with 6% interest a year on the outstanding balance. That's a 0.5% a month. So the first month, $40 went to the principal, $20 went to the interest. So I paid that off. That's $60. Then I finished putting air conditioning, added on bill. It was a big lot. Then had an extra rental on the back. But it was a nice house. But we come by this in 1960. I think they built this house. And the next one and 3 more down there, and that's all that was out here. There was no homes. There was no park, no school. The streets were laid out. So we'd come and look through the window. Right here, they had a hutch thing built-in hutch. Oh, it's beautiful. And we'd look at that and look at that. And we finally had a builder that was a friend build us one in our house down there, almost similar. And 2 years had gone by. The house still sitting there. For the price on it was $18,500. So I told Violet, I says, let's make them an offer. So we did. We offered them $16,500, and they took it. We probably could have offered them $15,500 at only $200 down. They was glad to get rid of it. Well, these weren't tract homes. A guy had the lots named Williams, built this house. The only thing different is the elevation. Except I've enclosed the garage. I've added a west wing thing and stuff like that. But 16, and I paid it down to about 7 and paid it all at once. In the meantime, we had about 5 or 6 rentals. Why wouldn't that girl want to marry me? I had plenty of money. I'm getting back to stuff.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your post office career, and then we'll have just like 2 questions after that.
Okay.
So you were starting, when you came back, you started at the post office at the one that was on Boston Street, right?
Yeah.
That's where you began?
Yeah.
And then when did you move over to the post office on Buffalo?
Well, by then I had made superintendent of mails. I don't know, I might have made assistant postmaster. But it was probably less than 10 years, maybe 8.
Was it in '54 when they opened up that new post office on Buffalo? You remember sometime?
It might have been.
Mid-50s?
Mid-50s, it probably was. Because they enlarged and remodeled the old one a time or two. It had boxes all over the place because there was no city delivery except one rural route. And they'd have 2 lines all the way down coming in calling for the mail. And it just got too much. So the government come in and got the property. Well, they got a lease. It wasn't our property. It was the San Marcos.
So the actual building belonged to the San Marcos?
Yeah, this building we moved out of belonged to somebody else. It was the lease. And yeah, they had the upstairs we had the downstairs. Sometimes during a hot summer like this, there'd be water coming out like it's a threatening rain outside. Somebody taking a shower, a bath, letting the water run over. And that in the middle of the day. Yeah, I was already assistant postmaster when we were in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where some of those pictures you'll see.
Yeah, and you said the building was just to the west of the old Saguaro Hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you said that the San Marcos Hotel would use the top portion of the building to their higher...
Yeah, see, they used all the Saguaro Hotel is only open, and all the Korean people they used would come from the Eastern Coast, and they would be domiciled there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't imagine they charge them, and that's part of their pay. So they had about 5 or 6 or so up top, plus they had 2 little alcoves or cubby holes were provided inspectors to come in and view. See, they have those things. Inspection station. They can come without you knowing it. Stand there and watch you work.
Oh, like federal inspectors?
Yeah.
To inspect the post office?
Yeah, the post office was federal. They would be postal inspectors. And when they'd come, they'd have their key to the outside door. There's one, if you went by that, no, that building's not there, is it?
If it's to the
Is
west
that
of...
still there?
Yes.
No, I'm talking about here. Oh yeah, I think it was inside. Oh, it was different than up there. You could get in from the outside. I think they'd have to come in a way, but they'd come in and go up and they could see everything.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was legal. If somebody was stealing, actually, one time, the inspectors, they have a system. They go through weeding out areas. Somebody was getting into the mail. I won't mention his name. He's not there. But it don't serve no purpose. But